This is Tasting Room Radio. I'm Terrydavidmulligan. We have found the two busiest people in all of London, Ontario, and perhaps Canada, who are the partners in Paradigm Spirits in London, Ontario. And I did my due diligence down at the Victoria Whiskey Festival and tried to do as many interviews as possible. When I was told that Paradigm had won the Whiskey of the Year in Canada, I said, where do I find them? How do I interview them? And they said, they're not here. They didn't come. But I mean, last year, the same thing happened with Sons of Vancouver. They didn't go over either because they didn't think they'd win. They were just interested in entering the competition and being judged. What was your thought? What were your thoughts going into the competition? Was there a conversation about which whiskey to send?
Yeah. The awards seasons kind of roll around annually, and there are awards all over the world. So I think a lot of distilleries are faced with where to send which of their products. And we made a decision to send our 2022 Heritage Collection, despite having a release that was right on the horizon. We thought that we'd hold on to that one to get a little bit of sense as to what people thought about it before submitting it.
What was that called?
It's called Chapter 1 Weeded, and it's available for sale now because, of course, a number of months have elapsed since the time that we submitted the whiskey for the award. So that whiskey is out in the market today. The reason we chose the 2022 Heritage, though, to go was because we made a gamble in making that whiskey, in that we wanted to leverage a rule that was not being used in Canadian whiskey making to the best possible light, the best possible way we could imagine that rule. And we feel like that whiskey that won is unique. It's got a flavorful profile, unlike anything we had found on the market. And it goes without saying that we're particularly fond of it, because we won't make and sell anything we're not fond of. But we are, in fact, absolutely blown away that it has been so very, very well received. And it has been received very well at other awards as well. But having it present so well at home, amongst the behemoth whiskeys that are available in Canada from some of the best whiskey makers in the world, undeniably the best in the world.
Michelle, did you see how many judges and how many whiskeys they tasted?
Yeah, 200 whiskeys, 200 plus. Like, yeah, blown away that we were in, such great company. We're just a small craft distillery in London at this point. That's
the deal. I've judged wine competitions, and at the end of the 3 days, you don't want to see another bottle of wine or a glass or anything. You want a beer. So for your whiskey to rise above 199 other whiskeys at the end of a lot of tasting, they're tasting at home, but still it's the same thing. It's astonishing how the mind all of a sudden says, no, that's it. That's the one. I'll come back to that. When you test another 30, 40, 50, whatever, you come back to it and say, that's the one. So very distinctive. You just never know. You're so close to your own whiskeys, you never know one from the other. They might have sent something else. But Michelle, there is something here. You do have to taste around. You have to taste the competition to know where you stand as well, don't you?
Agreed.
Yeah, we do. One of the best parts about what we do is that we're a young distillery, and our staff we have two exceptional distillers. One comes from a brewing background and the other pure distillation background. When you open a distillery, you have a big learning curve. What kind of product is that still going to produce? Well, what's your distillate going to taste like? How long is it going to take? And there's so many questions. And we made a choice to source product and bring that product in-house and develop a blending team that is a blending team that's as deep as our company is, in that we all participate in that process of blending and finishing and rectifying and tasting. And so we of course tasted lots of other sherry butt finishes along our path, and we tasted our own product at literally.
It's research.
It's research. It's a ton of research, and that's the fun of that's where the magic happens.
It was aged 19 years, is that correct?
Correct.
It begs two questions. When did you become a company?
We opened our doors in 2020 at the height of the pandemic, after about 3 years of business planning and building this facility.
So you sourced that whiskey.
We absolutely did source the whiskey, yes. We will be sourcing whiskey for the foreseeable future, because we don't imagine anything we make will be worth drinking for quite some time.
And so let me ask you about that number 19. What were you doing 19 years ago? What business were you in?
Both of us were in the high-tech field.
Both pretty fresh out of school, maybe a little wiser than the Greens upon graduation, but we both worked in tech. We come from a tech background. Michelle more on the programming and operations side, and me on the journey, the customer experience and process journeys. So we both come from tech.
And when did the devil
midlife crisis?
Sorry?
This was the midlife crisis.
When did the devil whiskey have its way with you? When did you all of a sudden become interested?
Well, in 2016, I fell ill and was home for a period of time having treatment. And during that time, Instagram was taking off, and cocktail culture became something that got me through treatment. And I learned about cocktails, and I was enamored by these beautiful cocktails. My dad had always been a whiskey man. And so we grew up in a Scotch household. And one day we wandered into a craft distillery on the East Coast called Ironworks, a beautiful little distillery in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. And we had learned of this couple who had created this distillery out of very little background knowledge. And we thought, well, that's kind of cool. We've seen lots of breweries, we've seen wineries. We haven't spent a lot of time in distilleries. And I think we fell in love that day, because we saw about 200 more distilleries in a matter of a year. And the next thing we knew, we were writing a business plan and wondering if it was actually something that we could make happen.
Did you have a home then? Did you know where you were going to place yourselves?
No.
No,
Okay.
we were living in Waterloo at the time, and we started looking for an appropriate setting for the distillery. And we looked at a number of them before we got a call one day from the folks that own this property here at 100 Kellogg Lane. And they had recently purchased the property, and they were making plans to transform it over a number of years into like a burgeoning destination. And they wanted a distillery here. So we came and we toured, and we drank the Kool-Aid, and we worked with the fabulous people that own this property to choose a building, retrofit that building, and start building the distillery. And our third partner, who's not here today, is actually also actively involved, and he has personal interest in the property as well, which is great, because it's given us a home and an anchoring position from which to start this.
It must be a grand building. I mean, the Kellogg's, what you could do with that sort of construction. But it's created a buzz locally. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody.
It's absolutely astonishing to us. You know, we live in London. It's one of Canada's fastest growing cities, although most people that live here don't know that. And this destination property is truly something that's going to transform the landscape of London, Ontario in the years to come. So being here on this facility, where there's a rich story about the grains that Kellogg's used, that we repurpose and use in the making of our spirits today, it's wonderful.
All right, just a couple of things. 19-year-old blended with just a touch of sherry. How much sherry do you think?
Less than 3%.
Okay. More for the nose? What did the sherry do for you?
We felt that we needed to rectify the finish, and we wanted to impart a jamminess, because this particular distillate at 19 years one of the things we do when we're approaching what we want to come out with at the end of our practice is how versatile the product is in various applications. So we felt that that whiskey was a Manhattan whiskey. It was a Manhattan in the making, in that it had all of the notes of a classic Manhattan, but it needed some fruit punch. And we've used a number of barrels. We've experimented with barrels, and we do that from time to time, but we weren't achieving what we wanted. And we said, you know what? Let's try this. This is what this rule was for. Nobody used it that way then. Let's use it the right way.
Why Oloroso?
Oloroso, I mean, we tasted Lustau's. We tried a number. We were particularly fond of the Oloroso that we were able to get our hands on. And you also have to remember that at the time, we were in the pandemic. Nothing was being imported into this country. So it was very difficult to get our hands on anything. And I don't want to say we wound up with all that we could choose from, but our choices were limited. We chose what we felt was the absolute best representation. And we had to make a change in that. We had an initial first batch release. I think it was fewer than 1,000 bottles that went out, and then we ran subsequent batches, one of which is the one that went to the awards. It had a different sherry, same vintage, like same vineyard, but a different profile, slightly different profile. I don't know that the average consumer could tell. We can, but batch 2 and 3 subsequently have been a different sherry.
Just while I have it on the top of my mind, how many bottles left?
As of this morning, under 1,000.
Duplication. Can you?
No, not be credible. And I don't think that's something that we want to do. Our goal is to release as many unique whiskeys as we can, and to use this journey as a learning. So I mentioned that we have another release out now. It's a wheated whiskey, 2 parts wheat to 1 part corn. Absolutely very unique whiskey. We were inspired by the folks at Journeyman Distillery, just south of the border here in Michigan, who had put out a wheated whiskey called Corsets and Whips that we were really fascinated by. And we decided we wanted to do a wheated whiskey as well. And we wound up with this wheated blend, 2 parts wheat, 1 part corn. All of our whiskeys will be different because they will all be limited in release according to what we're able to source. And in this case, the 19-year has come to an end. And unfortunately, we won't be putting any more out.
Was Kellogg's there in London because of the grain, the farms around? Is that
Yes.
why they were and you're sourcing?
Yes. So we're located only about 5 kilometers off of the 401, the biggest thoroughfare of trade between Toronto and Detroit. We're about halfway, and that's kind of a moniker of London, is that we're halfway between Toronto and Detroit. So we're about 5 kilometers off that thoroughfare, and the Kellogg property is about 1 million square feet, a city block big. It's a remarkable destination that we hope everybody has the opportunity to visit one day and come to see us while you're here. But we're amongst Canada's most arable land. I mean, we know that there's a lot of wheat and wonderful agriculture happening out west and in the prairies, but there's a significant amount happening right here in southwestern Ontario, which has been very helpful for us in procuring grain, raw good, and developing relationships with local farmers.
I'm so happy for your success. Actually, I think you might have seen the comments from Davin de Kergommeaux, who is the godfather, of course. Sublime
Absolutely.
complexity and elegance. Fresh, fruity top notes. And he goes on and on and on, but I just did the 2. And I thought, and actually I was thinking sublime complexity and elegance, much like the people who made it. Are you able to talk to the people who made that original barrel? Have you?
We do very often.
What do they think?
Well, I think when we first purchased what we did, they might have thought we were crazy, because they probably don't deal with people like us very often that come in off the street and say, what's the very best that you have? Because we don't want anything else but that. And looking back, we might have been a little brazen in our approach,
Yeah,
but
possibly.
we got quite lucky. And they welcomed us, and they shared some of what they had that maybe they couldn't make the best use of for whatever reason. And I think they were curious about what we might do, and we haven't really talked to them yet since hearing of everybody's awards last week. But we're quite certain that they're going to be as surprised as we are, and we're hopeful that that this gives them some confidence that we can continue to work together and bring great whiskey to Canadians, because we think we know what Canadians want.
Michelle, what's happened to your world?
Well, it's been a whirlwind. It's kind of turned right upside down. But wow, what such excitement. And, it's so great to hear people talk about our whiskey and the passion when, our team describes it. It's been fantastic. I couldn't ask for more. So blessed.
I believe the blending of wines, especially the big reds, is an art form, and I insist on saying it to people who don't believe that or just take it for granted. The blending of whiskey is also an art form. Mm-hmm. It takes an entire lifetime to figure out how to blend whiskey.
Yep.
You can't rush that, but this is a whole learning. You're learning. This is a school for you. School is open.
We learn every day,
every single day. Yeah, and maybe that's the biggest lesson for us in all of this, and is that, we took an unconventional approach. We could have gone out and hired storied, famed distillers. We could have gone and found people that had years and years of experience making exceptional product. Instead, we've hired young people with a determination and a passion. And we've spent all of our time in the last 3 years trying to harness that passion and figure out how best to keep these people happy, motivated, and wanting to be here with us as this journey unfolds. And we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Okay. How's your health?
I am cancer-free, and every day is a blessing.
There you go. Well done. Well done. So 1,000 bottles left. What was the original asking price? What was the price point?
In Ontario, where things hurt the most, it's $134.95 after taxes and deposit. But we do offer shipping, and we ship to most jurisdictions in Canada. Wherever we're allowed legally to do so, we will. Our website's been inordinately busy, and we have a number of people behind the doors putting orders together to get them out to people fast enough. We are absolutely blessed for this recognition, and we can't thank the committee and everybody in the whiskey community enough for supporting us, because we've been met with open arms everywhere we go, and we feel extremely blessed. For real.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much. Same to you. You've been such a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you. And by the way, this is the first time in recent memory that I have done an interview without actually tasting what I'm talking about. I was on the third floor tasting the interviews that I was doing, but by the time I got finished, I had to get home.
So you did get to taste it though, however, right?
No.
You've never tasted it?
No.
We need to find a way to get some to you.
Watch for an email.
Okay. We'll take care of that.
Thank you for this. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a great day.
Is right around the corner. Go.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.